culture, that's Bollywood and Hollywood, is notorious for portraying women as not being very sensible with their finances. So right here, I am going to essentially talk to you about those characters that were not exactly best at behaving with their money, and to correct and rectify those mistakes and to ensure that you as well do not act like them, I have with me Vanshika Goenka of coolkanya.com. Well, here's our very first character that we just love to hate. Carrie Bradshaw of Sex and the City. Who does not envy her lovely shoe collection, her amazing collection of bags, among other things? But the one thing that we certainly envy is the way she spends money and the way she lustfully looks at every brand that's out there. A big shoe fetish, a big bag fetish as well, but it's something that will definitely damage your wallet, that retail therapy, that addiction to shopping. So how to ensure that you don't exactly drain out your wallet trying to get your hands on the latest Manola Blahniks? Vanshika will give us some tips.
So I think with Carrie Bradshaw, you see her in New York City. She's a freelancer. She's taking cabs every day, eating in the most expensive restaurants. And I think one major lesson you learn from her and her need to shop is the importance of mapping out your salary. So every month, seeing what salary comes in, what are your fixed expenses, minusing that, and with the remaining account, making sure you save 15% of that and utilizing 10% of the remaining account on expenses. And also you should do one thing, which is make sure you spend towards the end of the month. Another lesson that you learn from Carrie is also that you see her only doing one freelancing gig. So I think having another stream of income is really important, especially if you're a freelancer. And even if not, maybe another client, you can take up something like on Amazon Mechanical Turks, where you do some side job and make sure that you have more income coming in.
And when it comes to shopping, how can we not talk about Rebecca Bloomwood of Confessions of a Shopaholic? That one scene that's extremely iconic is when there's that big sale and the hordes of women come rushing in trying to grab that best possible piece of garment or accessory. And eventually that leads to Rebecca Bloomwood as well trying to crack through her credit card. Well, turns out she's not only maxed her credit cards out, but she's deep in debt and still not being able to control her shopping fetish. This is something that leads to debtors as well as recovery personnel constantly hounding her, asking to make her payments, and even in fact reaching her office. How dangerous is it to be in debt, am I right? Vanshika, tell us the importance then of ensuring that you pay your bills in time and make sure you don't max out your credit card.
So I think it's really important with Rebecca Bloomwood. You see what happens if you give in to your every urge that you get of instant gratification, and that you kind of experience today on a day-to-day basis, right? Like even your Amazon account has your credit card saved, so it's so easy to just go shop and overindulge. So I think one thing that you really learn from Rebecca Bloomwood is to pay your minimum balance due on your credit card, and also to have a good credit score account. The second thing that you learn from her is if you can't handle a credit card, maybe opt for a debit card or utilize cash. You can actually see visually, like, you know, if you're using cash, your wallet becoming thinner, so you stop spending more. And I think what really has helped me spend less is using an app to track my expenses. So I use an app called Expensify, which tells me the trends of where I'm shopping. So if I'm buying too many clothes or if I'm buying too much food or spending on certain items, I get to know and I can then curb that.
Who doesn't love the character of Rachel Green from Friends? The way she dresses, the way she wears her hair, or even her relationship with Ross Geller for that matter. But I think the one trait of her character that we should all leave out is right at the beginning, when her man is her financial plan. First, she moves on from being dependent on her father to being dependent on her fiancé, whom she realizes she doesn't love. And that's when it gets her wondering, where on earth is she going to be able to get money from? Who on earth is going to sustain her little bit of expensive lifestyle? And the sort of shock she gets when she realizes that her father threatens to cut her off if she breaks off her engagement. That's the real problem with a lot of women out there. Why do you have to depend on a man to fund you? Well, that's where the role of financial independence comes in. Vanshika, share with all our ladies out there why it's so important to be financially independent.
You see that with Rachel Green, where, like you said, she goes from, depending on her father to her fiance, and once she has no one to depend on, she's in this identity crisis. She's having this identity crisis. And that's where you realize how closely linked financial independence is with having an identity. Because Mabeen, I remember even speaking to someone while doing research for Cool Kanya, which was a woman in Delhi, and she was telling me how one day her son came to her and told her, she's a homemaker, came to her and told her, Mom, how I get pocket money is exactly how you get pocket money. And that's the day she realized that it's so important for her to work, and she took up a side hustle or a side gig. So I think with Rachel Green also you see that the importance of having your financial independence, even if that means you have to start small. Like in Friends, you see her starting as a waitress and working her way up.
When it comes to Bollywood, the track record isn't great either. Let's take the example of Rani Mukherjee's character when she played Radhika Banerjee in the 2007 movie Tara Rampam. As we know, she was a pianist, she had a rich father, then subsequently she gets married to up-and-coming racer Saif Ali Khan. But there seems to be an absolute disconnect between what Saif Ali Khan is earning and spending, and Rani Mukherjee has absolutely no clue about that. How often have we seen, sometimes in our own families, where it's the men of the family taking all the decisions and the women have absolutely no clue? That seems to have what happened in Tara Rampam as well, because at the end of the day, she finds out that Saif Ali Khan has literally taken everything on mortgage, and now that he's no longer able to race cars, he has no income, they literally lose everything to the point of their home and car. So Vanshika, how important is it that the woman of the house is absolutely aware of everything that her husband or the male members of the family are earning, and also their spending habits?
So like you said, with Radhika Banerjee, we see that she's completely clueless of what her husband's doing, how much her husband's spending, and and they have no emergency funds. So one thing you really learn from her is obviously being aware of your financials, regardless if you're working or not. And the second thing you actually learn from Radhika Banerjee is the importance of saving up for a rainy day. And I think this is what we've learned even from our grandparents, right? Like I remember my grandmom hiding her money in secret places or in different wallets. So whenever we had a need, she would just pull it out. So I think that's a really major lesson, which is to save up for when there is an emergency. And this could also just be simply like transferring some amount every month into your savings account, so you have something when an emergency comes up.
Like I said, Bollywood is definitely not all that bad, and I have saved one of the best characters in Bollywood for the last. That's the character of Shashi Godbole, played by Sridevi in English Vinglish. A simple, uneducated housewife who manages to churn out some delicious laddus and also tries to make a buck out of it by going herself door to door, delivering these laddus, not depending on anyone for that, and managing to save that money, which she eventually uses to teach herself English. Talk about perseverance, hard work, financial independence, and that spirit of entrepreneurship. Vanshika, don't you think this role would be an ideal inspiration for all the women out there who believe that they simply can't do it?
I think Shashi is one of my favorite characters, just because she's a housewife, cooking from home and earning money, and she saves that money and goes to English class. So I think the first lesson that you learn from her is that no matter how big or small your business is, you can, from the money you earn, you can do something for yourself. And the second thing that you really learn from her is, even though she didn't know English well, her husband did not support her, her daughter did not support her, she had the courage to go out in the world, acknowledge that she doesn't know English, and go out there and learn English. And I think what you really learn from her is persistence. Like, you're never too old to learn something. And I think you learn from her the courage to pursue your dreams.
Well, Vanshika, we've discussed a lot of characters of pop culture. Some of them have definitely been displayed in a really bad light when it comes to managing their money, but many of them are positive too. And to all the ladies out there, I hope these pop culture characters are giving you the right inspiration to give your personal finances the attention that it deserves.